Hello everyone, and thank you so much for joining me. This is Sierra from Sierra T Designs, and today I have a Distress Oxide Blended Star Slimline card. So let's jump right in. So to start, I've got the panel cut down here, and you can see that I also have a white base sitting beside that. Originally, I thought that I was going to give it a white base, but in the end, as you can see from the image, I picked a black base, so we will change up the card base here in a little bit. But I did cut my panel down to slightly smaller than the card is going to be, the card base. You can see here I'm just showing it to you there. And this is my new storage system for the dome foams. I have a video coming with that for you very soon, so don't worry, it's coming. Alright, so we're going to get right into the blending. I have Distress Oxide inks in Picked Raspberry, Wilted Violet, Cracked Pistachio, Peacock Feathers, and Squeezed Lemonade. And I'm just blending them on wherever I want to. There's no rhyme or reason to the coloring at all. You kind of just want it all over the place so that when you clear emboss the stars over top of them, you'll get a lot of different colors in each star, as you can see from the image. And my panel is cut down to about 1/4 of an inch smaller than my card base, and the card base is going to be 7 inches by 8.5 inches because this is a slimline card. And I will show you cutting and scoring the base here in a little bit when I decide to use the black base. But for the beginning of this video, I honestly thought that I was going to use a white base. So I'm going to show you the white base. We're going to stamp inside. We're going to do a bunch of things, but I don't use it. Because honestly, in the end, it looked better with a black base than a white base. Which is an odd thing. Usually I do white just because it's easier to write inside. But that's just how this one went. So that's kind of a fun change for me. And you're going to see here in a minute, once I'm done all the blending, that I did spray some Dylusions Shimmer inks on, what are they called? Dylusions Shimmer sprays onto the panel, but I didn't show it to you because you can't tell by the end. So I do something else to add a bit of sparkle to the card. So I kept that out of the video because there was no point. But you will see here once we get stamping the stars onto the panel that you can see that it's wet. And that's why. But yeah, I didn't show it because I cut it out. See here you can see that there's obviously something that's oxidized the background. I didn't show it because you cannot even tell by the time we get to the, when we put the black soot over top. So here I've got the Altenew Halftone stars, and I'm going to lay them all out. There's quite a few stars in this set. I think that there's like 8, almost 9 maybe, and there's quite a few, and I use, I believe, every one of them. And I treated my Oxide panel with the anti-static powder bag. You do want to make sure that your ink is dry, or of course this will stick everywhere. So I tested it first. I just dropped a little bit of my embossing powder on top of the panel before I started stamping just to see if my panel was dry, and it was, so it was okay. So then I'm going to use my Versamark ink, which is a clear sticky ink, and I'm going to ink up those stars and push them down pretty hard just because some of the stars they're all different shapes, right? So I wanted a really good impression, so when I put on the embossing powder, you get a really good impression of the star, but not so much around the star. And it actually worked out really well on this panel. I was a little bit concerned, but it worked out really well. So I'm going to do the whole panel, all the stars, before I add any of the embossing powder. So of course I'm just going to wipe them off. I wiped them off with a baby wipe, and then I took in my microfiber cloth and just patted them down. And I even conditioned them a little bit with my hand. And sorry that's out of the panel. It doesn't quite fit the camera, this stamping platform. This is the Tim Holtz stamping platform. You can't get this one anymore. You can still get the travel-sized one, but you can't get this one. So I can link the travel-sized one if you guys want, but it's a little bit smaller than this one. So, but then I moved them all down, and I'm gonna stamp them all again. Treat it with my anti-static powder tool without touching the other stars on the panel. I don't know if you guys can see it. I can. You can see where the star stopped, but I'm going to stamp them again one more time, and then we're going to add the embossing powder here in a sec. So the embossing powder, bear with me on this new container. I'm kind of moving my embossing powders, the ones that I use consistently, like the white and the clear. This is a clear, this is Brutus Monroe Icicle. And I'm kind of moving them into these containers to try something a little bit different instead of using coffee filters all the time. I was kind of trying to find a better way, so I'm just experimenting with this, so you have to bear with me a little bit. I need to order some more powder too, so. But I got these little containers off of Amazon. I think they were like $5 or something. And then the triangle tray is just the Studio Katia triangle tray that I really love. So yeah, and then we just tap it all off. I'm going to show it to you there. And it was really good. I didn't have a lot of powder sticking where it shouldn't be, which was really exciting. And then of course I'm just going to bring in my heat tool. Sorry I'm off screen a little bit here. With the panel being a bit bigger, I always struggle a little bit to stay in frame. So I'll move it every time that I go out of frame. But I just wanted to show you a bit closer the melting of the embossing powder. So once the embossing powder is smooth and melted, we're going to move on to the next step. And now I'm going to be honest with you guys. I wasn't 100% sure this was going to work. Oh, sorry, no, we're going to stamp the inside of the base first. I forgot about this step. Okay, so we're going to take the exact same Oxide inks and we're going to stamp them across the stars that I've laid out in the base of my white panel. Now again, I'm not going to use this card panel, but I'm going to show you later that I just trimmed this piece off and stuck it into my black card panel because I didn't really want to use a white gel pen to write inside of the panel, and because the panel is black, you would have to use like a gel pen or some kind of ink that would stay on top for you to be able to write inside the card. So I just trim this out and stick it on the bottom. So here is a leap of faith. I wasn't 100% this was going to work. And I was looking at the background and I'm like, oh, maybe I should just leave it. And I was like, no, this is what I did this panel for. I've got to try it. So that is Distress Oxide in Black Soot. That's the color Black Soot. And then I took my microfiber cloth and I'm just buffing it off of the stars that we embossed because the embossing will resist the ink. So you've only dyed the background panel. So this is a little bit of a leap of faith when you have such a... I thought the panel was so pretty, but this was the whole point of this card. This was me trying to get this effect. So it was a little bit of a leap of faith, but it worked out really well and looked pretty cool in the end, I think. You'll have to let me know what you think. So I just took my microfiber cloth and I just kept moving it as I was buffing off the black ink from the embossing powder. And of course that brightens up your stars again. Now I chose to add some white gouache, sorry, flicks of color onto this because I felt like I wish I had added a bit more stars, but of course at this point you're too late. You're not adding anything now. You've already added the black. So I'm going to just flick on some stars to add a little bit into the parts where it's like there's a lot of black or a lot of black soot, just to fill it out a little bit because I wasn't quite happy with how many stars. I really wish I had added more stars, but I didn't, so there's nothing you can do about it. And then, like I said, we lost all that shine that I had originally added, so here I just took some liquid Pixie dust by Ink on 3, and I flicked it on the background as well. And anything that you see me using in these videos will definitely be linked and listed down below. You can check out any of the items. So here, I have a full piece of cardstock, which is your 8.5 by 11, and I've cut it down at 4 inches because my trimmer only goes to 6 inches, and you need 7 inches to make it 3.5. I just trimmed it 4 inches off, and that's just an extra piece of paper. And then I scored at 3.5 with my Scor-Buddy and with my Teflon bone folder. Sorry guys, words are hard today. Oh boy. And I'm just going to reinforce that fold. And then I'm going to set the panel on top. And see here, I think it looked, I didn't show you with white, but I think it looked better with the black. And I'm just going to cut off the panel here. And then I'm going to trim it down just a little bit so that it can fit in the center of the card and not hang over. So I took a little bit off each side, and then I'm going to I trimmed a little bit off to start. And then I'm going to make sure that it's just under 3.5 inches. I think that I made it 1/4 of an inch smaller than 3.5 inches so that it would fit inside and have a small border around it. But I chose to actually glue it straight to the edge. I didn't leave a border all the way around. You're going to see here I'm going to glue it right up to the edge of the card fold. And that just kind of gave it a little bit of a border on 3 edges as opposed to the 4 sides. And I just kind of liked how that looked. It was just something a little bit different. This black paper was different for me. This whole thing was just a bit of a new journey for me in making cards. And you can see here that I have a whole bunch of little sentiments sitting around. I struggled so hard to find a sentiment I liked with this card. These are from Simon Says Stamp. They're their Word Mix 1 set, and I played around with so many ideas, and in the end I didn't like any of them. So I just pulled out some gold thickers, and I used them to spell the word thanks with a little exclamation mark. The gold matches pretty well to the liquid pixie dust, which is like a gold shimmer. So I felt that that kind of pulled the gold shimmer out a bit more from the background and made that just stand out a little bit more. Excuse my head there. it always gets in the way. And then you have my real nice hair there. Oh boy. So I just used some thickers and I stamped them out. I stuck them down with some Distress Collage medium. And I've got a fine tip on there just to make it a little easier because they're so thin. And then, yeah, and I did use my T-square ruler just to make sure that my thanks was straight. But I struggled really hard with the sentiment for this. And in the end, I had a package of these, and they've been sitting around forever. I got them a while ago, and I don't even know where I got them from, to be honest with you. I've had them in my stash for quite a while, and I never really knew what to use them on, and finally this worked. And I'm going to do the same thing to this panel as I did to the panel inside the card. I actually stuck it right up to the fold on the top of the card and then left a border on 3 sides of the card. But yeah, that's how this card turned out. I would love to know what you guys think. I'd love to know if you would try this. It was a lot of fun, and I think it turned out really great in the end. And I'm just going to pick it up for you so you can see it here. And yeah, so if you guys would like to subscribe, I would love to have you back. I post a new card every Monday, and I have a couple of extra cards coming in June for a couple events that I got to join in on. And if you want to subscribe, if you'd like the video, leave me a comment. I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much, guys, and I cannot wait to see you again. Bye-bye.